Now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you and welcome to the stage the President of AAPG, Mr. John Lorenz.
AAPG is about the science. We're a scientific organization that's written into our Constitution, and the science of geology has brought us from dipping oil out of oil seeps to oil wells that are drilling offshore in remote environments, places all over the world. We started in Titusville in the United States anyway. We started drilling our first well based on an oil seep. There was a surface manifestation there that we knew was there. It wasn't until the science of geology had developed enough to the point where we could see below our feet, imagine below our feet what the rocks looked like. And at that point, we had to sell ourselves because the science of geology was still developing. The Spindletop oil field, developed in 1900, was developed on scientific theory. There was no oil seep when Spindletop was drilled. And as a matter of fact, the fellow that drilled that, Lucas, ran out of money several times because he could not convince the investors that there was oil there because everything else had been drilled on oil seeps. He had the science. He had the concept of what was really below there. And finally, it blew out 100,000 barrels of oil a day, a little over 1,000 feet. And what that did was it allowed transportation, heating, and so much else to become part of our national legacy and drive and improve civilization. Science is becoming more and more important. What you're looking at here is a graph of the number of barrels of oil of energy you recoup from the ground for every barrel of oil you put into it. And back in the 1930s, it was a ratio of about 100 to 1. More recently, it's down to about 20, 25 to 1. If you look at the enhanced oil recovery, we're less than that. We're down 8, 10 to 1. If we're looking at some of the unconventionals, significantly less. The science is becoming critical and crucial to being able to extract from the subsurface the energy that we need to run civilization. AAPG is scientifically oriented. We're supremely poised to contribute to this global problem. So what's the value of science? Science allows us to go from looking at one-dimensional data. You got a well. That's one-dimensional. And it allows us to take core indications of various properties, cross beds, fractures, laminated bedding. It allows us to go from one-dimensional data to three-dimensional ideas of what's really down there in the subsurface, okay? It makes a big difference. If you have a reservoir that looks like one of these slides, you're going to get an entirely different drainage pattern than if you have a reservoir that looks like the other. And it's the science that allows you to make that distinction. In turn, industry has contributed significantly to the development of science. The technology of being able to measure in the subsurface what's actually there, whether it's wellbore image logs, whether it's core, whether it's geophysical technology, this has allowed us to recreate geological systems in the subsurface that nobody has ever seen at the surface. It's amazing. Now, this is a slide that Larry Nation gave me, and what it shows you is kind of interesting. It's a cautionary tale, if you will. What it shows you is the development of the rock and roll industry compared to production in the United States. And it's a very close correlation, a lot closer than a lot of people are modeling other things. And what this would lead you to believe was that to solve the energy crisis, all you have to do is write more great rock and roll songs. Doesn't necessarily work that way, but you could draw that from this correlation, couldn't you? So it pays us all to be a little skeptical in our thinking. and to use a lot of the geoscience that we've been developing over the years to not only find what we're looking for in terms of oil and gas, but to view the entire world and the problems. Now, this is a correlation that you can perhaps believe a little bit more in. What you're looking at here is all the wells that have been drilled each year since 1949, that's the fuchsia color across there, compared to the dry holes. And what you see is that as you drill more wells, yeah, there's some more dry holes, but the ratio doesn't change. Matter of fact, you get out there to the far end, and the ratio actually improves. We're developing the science, we're redefining a little bit in terms of what's actually a successful well, but the science has continued to improve and allow us to maintain this ratio despite the fact that oil is getting harder to find, the pools are getting smaller, we're drilling in deeper environments, we're drilling in more remote and more hostile environments. You guys are doing a great job, right? Using the geoscience, we're maintaining that ratio.